So I would like to think logically through this problem with you. First of all, the first couple problems are like we did last time that we met. Okay, so I'm not giving you examples on those. That's just an absolute value on one side of the equation, and just a number, a constant on the other side. Sometimes you have to isolate the value. You remember, once we isolate the value, we write it into two parts, a positive part and a negative part, whatever was inside the absolute value. We solve it, we check it, we graph it. Okay, this is what's different for our lesson today. How is this different? There's the absolute value on both sides, right? So let's think logically through this real quick. Okay? What can this side be? Inside this absolute value can either be positive or negative, right? What can inside this absolute be? Positive or negative. So this side could be positive and this side could be positive, correct? This side could be positive and this side could be negative. This side could be negative and this side could be positive. Or this side could be negative and this side could be negative. Right? Is there any other choices besides that? That took care of all the possibilities, right? This side is either positive or negative. This side is either positive or negative. Okay? So think about this with me for just a second. If they're both positive, that's pretty simple, right? If they're both negative, couldn't I divide both sides by a -1? And wouldn't that be the same as if they were both positive? Okay, so really, if I make them both positive, that takes care of those two situations, right? Wouldn't those be the same answers? Think about this one, though. If this side was positive and this side was negative, couldn't I divide this side by a negative to make it positive, and that would make this side negative? So aren't these two the same? So just the same as a regular type of absolute value equation, don't I just have to do two ways? I just have to do two examples, right? Okay, so is it okay if I just make them both positive? I can either make them both positive or both negative. Make them both negative, that just adds another step, right? So if I make them both positive, that gives me x plus 5 equals 2x plus 3. That's one of my possibilities, right? So what's the other possibility? If one of them is positive and one of them is negative, which one should be positive and which one should be negative? It doesn't matter. That's exactly right. Because if I made this one positive and this one negative, I could just divide this whole thing by negative and it would be positive, except this one would be negative then, right? Okay, so I typically make the first one positive and the second one negative because. No other reason than that. You could easily make the first one positive and the first one negative and the second one positive. We've already discussed why that's the same thing. Okay? So now all that's left to do is solve this, correct? 5 equals, I could have done that in one step, but x equals 2. And then if I solve this one, now typically we would divide by a negative on both sides, right? That's not going to do us any good here. So this is one of the cases where distributing it through is the better idea. Okay? X plus 5 equals negative 2x minus 3. If I add 2x to both sides, I get 3x. I could subtract 5 from both sides, do that in one step, and get 8. Everybody follow me? What's left to do then? Okay, how? How do you want to get rid of the 3? Just like, poof, it's gone? Oh, divided by 3? Okay. X equals 8/3. Pardon? Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Yep, I dropped my negative sign here on accident. Thank you for catching that. So are they right? 2 plus 5, 7. 2 times 2, 4 plus 3, 7. Does the absolute value of 7 equal the absolute value of 7? Yes. Okay. So negative 8/3. Ugh. Negative 8/3 plus 5. Well, negative 8/3 is the same as negative 2 2/3, right? Okay. So negative 2/3 plus 5 would be negative 2 1/3. Negative 2 1/3. Okay. So if I multiply that by, over here on this side, negative 8/3 times 2, that's negative 16/3. Adding 3 to it gives me negative 2 1/3. Okay, if you're completely uncomfortable with that, what could you do? Turn it on. New document. Well, just in case you don't know how to math, I want to make sure you know how to check your work. Okay? So, negative 8/3 is what I got, right? Negative 8/3. What is that? Negative 8/3 plus 5 equals 2 times negative 8/3 plus 3. Oh, you can't see that at all. What does that say? Can you see it at all? False. So it's wrong. Except it shouldn't be wrong. Did I put something in wrong? Oh, no, I know what I did. Hold on. Let's just do it that way. You can do it that way when you're not dealing with absolute values. Okay, we're dealing with absolute values, though. Sorry about that. Negative, here, just let me delete. Let me go up and get this. And I'm just going to delete that half. That equals 7/3. You okay with that? Okay, and then if I do, if I go up and get this again and just do the second half, negative 7/3. Does 7/3 equals negative 7/3? No, it doesn't. That's why it said false. But we're dealing with absolute values. Does the absolute value of 7/3 equal the absolute value of negative 7/3? Yes. Okay. Sorry about that. Do you understand how to use your calculator, though? Okay, good. So, when we're doing problems with absolute value on either side, God bless you. When we're doing problems with absolute value on either side, we're still doing 2. Does everybody understand that? Just like when we did the other one, we isolated the absolute value and then wrote it as 2 parts. We still are doing 2 because of this combination thing right here. The positive, positive, and negative, negative will equal the same thing. So we just have to do that once. And I chose to do the positives, both positives, because it's easier. Okay? One being positive and one being negative, that's going to equal out to the same thing. So I just have to do that once to get the other solution. We substitute these both in to figure out that they both work. Okay? I actually wrote the wrong sign right here. Let me fix that. Now I feel better. Okay? While 2 1/3 doesn't equal negative 2 1/3, we have to remember that we're dealing with absolute value, and those two things do equal each other. Okay? Any questions about that?